Hello. So for here, we're going to use the given information to compute the following. So we're given cosine theta equals 2 over 5. We are in quadrant 4. We need to find sine of 2 theta, cosine 2 theta, sine theta over 2, and cosine theta over 2. So let's draw a sketch here so that we can get a complete triangle. So we're in quadrant 4. Cosine is 2, our hypotenuse is 5, our side length, so we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So that a is going to be square root of 21. 25 minus 4 is 21. And this will be negative because the y value is negative in quadrant 4. So we have negative radical 21. 21 cannot be simplified. The only products are 3 and 7. So to find sine of 2 theta is going to be 2 sine theta cosine theta. So this will be 2 times sine theta is going to be negative radical 21 over 5. Cosine theta is positive 2 over 5. And so sine of 2 theta is equal to, we have negative 4 radical 21 over 25. Okay, for B, we need cosine 2 theta. So cosine 2 theta, since I'm given cosine theta, then I'm going to use, why don't we use this form here? We have 2 cosine squared theta minus 1. Okay, so this is equal to 2 times cosine is 2 over 5. So this tells us that cosine of 2 theta is equal to, square the numerator, you get 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So we have 8 over 25 because you also square the denominator. Since I am minusing 1, that's minus 25 over 25. So that cosine of 2 theta is equal to negative, what is it, 17 over 25. Okay. For part C, sine of theta over 2. So this will be plus or minus the square root of 1 minus cosine theta over 2. Since we are in quadrant 4, this will be the negative component. And so this is equal to negative 1 minus cosine theta is 2 over 5, all over 2. So that sine of theta over 2 is equal to negative 5 over 5 minus 2 over 5 is 3 over 5. And divided by 2 is the same thing as times 1/2. So this would be negative 3 over 10. Radical 3 over radical 10. Rationalize the denominator, and we get a negative radical 30 over 10. And then for the last one, D, we need cosine theta over 2. Cosine is positive in quadrant 4, so we're looking at the positive component of 1 plus cosine theta over 2. And this is 1 plus cosine theta is 2/5 all over 2, and all of this is the square root. So that cosine of theta over 2 is equal to square root of, this would be 7 over 5 times 1/2, because 5 over 5 plus 2 over 5 is 7 over 5. Divided by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/2. And then you can rationalize the denominator. This gives us radical 70 over 10. Okay, so here we need to find the same 4 components, A, B, C, and D. And this is with sine theta is negative 1 over 10, and we're in quadrant 3 here. So if you draw a sketch, so we have negative 1, we have positive 10, then we have a squared plus negative 1 squared equals 10 squared. So this is a squared equals 99, or a is equal to 3 radical 11. You square root both sides and you factor the 9 out. And this will be negative 3 radical 11 because we are in quadrant 3. So we need sine of 2 theta. This is going to be 2 sine theta cosine theta. So it'll be 2 times sine theta is negative 1/10. Cosine theta is negative 3 radical 11 over 10. So that sine of 2 theta is equal to, negative times a negative is a positive. So this will be 6 radical 11 over 100. Okay, I think the next one is cosine of 2 theta. Yes, cosine 2 theta. So since we're given sine, I'm going to go with 1 minus 2 sine squared theta. That's 1 minus 2 times negative 1 over 10. And so this tells us that cosine of 2 theta is equal to, so this squared is going to be 1 over 100. 2 over 100 is 1 over 50. So I have 50 over 50 minus 1 over 50. This is going to be 49 over 50. Let me okay. Goodness. Sine alpha over sine theta over 2. So sine is negative in this quadrant, so we will go with the negative value. We have the sinus minus. Okay. So this is negative. We have 1 minus cosine theta. We have negative 3 radical 11 over 10. And all of this is divided by 2. So this is equal to, we have negative, and then this will be 10 plus 3 radical 11, all divided by 10. And this is divided by 2 or multiplied by 1/2. When you're adding fractions, you need the same denominator. So this is the same thing as 10 over 10. Negative times a negative is a positive, 3 radical 11, and then our denominator, and we are dividing that by 2. So we have the square root of 10 plus 3 radical 11 divided by the square root of 20, which is 2 radical 5. Multiplying this by radical 5 over radical 5. When you're multiplying radicands with the same when you're multiplying two radicals with the same index, you'll multiply the radicands. And so this is the same thing as the square root of 50 plus 15 radical 11, and in the denominator we will have a 10. Radical 5 times radical 5 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Even though you have a 5 and a 5 and a 5, this cannot be simplified. And then for D, cosine theta over 2. Cosine is negative in quadrant 3. So we want the negative component. And this would be 1 plus cosine theta over 2. And so we have cosine theta is negative 3 radical 10 over 10. I'm sorry, negative 3 radical 11 over 10. And all of this is divided by 2. Okay, so that cosine theta over 2 is equal to, we have negative, and then this will be 10 minus 3 radical 11 over, we have the same 20. Okay, so this will end up being 50 minus 15 radical 11, all divided by 10. Okay. So this is the same thing as, so here we need to evaluate sine of pi over 8. This is sine of pi over 4 over 2. Because this is the same thing as this. And so this is theta over 2. So this is in quadrant 1, so we're looking at the positive square root of this, the principal square root of this, and so sine of pi over 8 is equal to 1 minus cosine of pi over 4 over 2, the square root, which is 1 minus radical 2 over 2 divided by 2, square root of all of that. So that sine of pi over 8 is equal to, we have 2 minus radical 2 over 4 square root. So this is square root of 2 minus radical 2 all over 2. An unusual looking number, but there you go. Thank you very much. Please go to tutoring.